Well, hi, Sean Smith here at the University of Kansas, the Department of Special Education. And when I think of AI, so many different things come into my mind. And of course, artificial intelligence has been with us for years. And in the special education world, we know so many students have benefited from co-writer or word prediction, which would be the generic term. And many of us know that as we start typing, words would generate, vocabulary lists would be available to the individual. They'd be able to hear it, they'd be able to see it, and of course, it would generate based on what the individual is typing. Yes, so artificial intelligence has been with us for a number of years. But now, post November 2022, the artificial intelligence we tend to think of is ChatGPT and the generative language and the machine learning and a host of other things that goes on. And what I want to do is I want us to think about one aspect of artificial intelligence from an instructor perspective that's really altering the way that I would argue we think about inclusion. Now, yes, we could think about that inclusion for students with disabilities, and we could think about our students with anxiety, and our students with ADHD, our students with learning disabilities, our students with dyslexia. But we could also think about those struggling learners that will never be identified with a disability, and yet countless times we're being asked as educators to be able to plan and design for that variability. Now, there's lots of different ways to unpack that, but for the moment, what I would suggest is oftentimes, and I work with a lot of teachers, as many of us do, and oftentimes what we'll look for, and what I hear from parents, is we'll do accommodations. And when I say accommodations, I'm thinking about accommodations. Everything from we'll give you extended time, we'll give you maybe some notes, some differentiated notes. We'll do some summary documents, a host of other things that we list, right? Accommodations, my goodness. Colleague David Bateman literally has a 36 or 52 page document with half of those pages are a list of accommodations. They're countless, and they go into all sorts of different categorical, everything from test accommodations to learning accommodations, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm rambling about this because this is where I think artificial intelligence becomes a key factor to facilitating what we have done traditionally to facilitate inclusion to make it even more efficient and more effective. And when I think about accommodations, increasingly I think about balls. Yeah, a variety of different balls. And where am I going with this? Well, I think of our learners, and let's call it Susan. Susan has a need. Now, Susan needs an accommodation based on whatever the need is. And let's say her accommodation is fairly small. It's not too demanding. It's kind of lightweight. It's a ping pong ball. Lightweight, not hard for us to be able to manage, etc. Great, all right? But then JJ comes along and he needs a tennis ball. Something a little bit bigger, something a little bit harder for us to be able to manipulate and be able to utilize. Okay, so now we got a ping pong ball, we got a tennis ball. And let's say we have a few more Susans. We have Maria, we have Jessica, we have Bonnie, and all those individuals need ping pong balls. Okay, so now we have 3 or 4 ping pong balls, we have a tennis ball, and then we have someone coming along, let's say Nolan. And Nolan needs a soccer ball. Nolan needs some significant accommodations. So now I'm juggling some tennis balls, some ping pong balls, a soccer ball. I'm getting pretty overwhelmed with my juggling. But that's how we often look at accommodations. I'm going to offer this accommodation for this individual, another accommodation for another individual, and next thing I know, I'm juggling a number of balls, and each one's a little different for those individuals. But from an artificial intelligence perspective, several things come to light for me that potentially will allow me to create right in the get-go, so very efficient and very effective, resources that could be that ping pong ball, the tennis ball, and the soccer ball.
Hi, my name is Julie Taylor, and I'm really happy you all are joining us here today. We're here today to talk about ways that AI can reduce special education teacher workload. And the reason that this is really important is that there is presently a crisis level teacher shortage in the United States. And when I say a crisis level teacher shortage, what I mean is that all localities around major cities, including rural and urban settings, are experiencing teacher shortages. This widespread teacher shortage is new. However, some areas, especially special education, have been experiencing teacher shortages for some time. So there are 2 drivers that contribute to the shortage. Teacher attrition refers to teachers leaving the field completely for other jobs, and teacher migration refers to teachers leaving one job for another. one of the primary reasons that contributes to special education teacher shortages is their workload. All teachers have a lot on their plate. They're expected to do quite a bit. However, administrative paperwork is especially an acute problem for special education teachers because they're writing IEPs, as well as the other paperwork that all teachers are sort of doing. What's more, it's estimated that since the pandemic, teacher workload has nearly doubled. Teachers are taking on work for other teachers that has to do with the shortage crisis. So, for example, in some cases, special education teachers are the only certified special educator in their building, and therefore they're the only one who's able to write IEPs when they have a non-certified special ed teacher subbing for one of those shortage areas. And so workload is especially acute right now. The teacher shortage is especially acute right now. And teachers are leaving and they really, really need to be supported. Workload also contributes to another main driver of the teacher shortage crisis, which is stress. Teachers leave their jobs because they're stressed. And so while this is a crisis, there are some solutions. And fortunately, one of the things that we're here to talk about today is how the use of artificial intelligence or AI could be implemented in classrooms to help special educators reduce their workload or at least to have it supported.
Hello, everyone. I'm Adam Carreon, and I'm an assistant professor at Georgia Southern University. So as we know, AI has been around for years, but now we have a more available technology of AI in things like ChatGPT and other ones that we may have heard around the internet or on TV, things that we may or may not have tried. But the idea of AI is that we are developing machines to have human-like intelligence. AI is an umbrella term that encompasses many categories. It's things like natural language processing. This can be things like predictive text. This can be things like your language, speech to text, text to speech. The next one you have is machine learning. And this could be things like Turnitin.com's revision assistant. Then we move on to adaptive learning platforms. And this could be things like Achieve 3000, AimsWeb. These are things that are built into learning management software. And then finally, we have the most prevalent one today, which is the generative pre-trained transformers, or what we'll call GPTs going forward. So that's what the end of ChatGPT is. These are housed on websites where you can access and pose queries, questions, and other requests. These GPTs will generate lists, they'll create arguments, they'll write products, they'll respond to questions, they'll search for you, and they'll do so much more depending on what you ask them and how you learn to interact with them. But we do have to think about the considerations of using AI in educational settings. So for special education teachers, you first need to have a good understanding of ethical considerations of using AI. You have to understand its potential bias when you're using it to write things. And then you have to understand the data security concerns that come along with a system that is brand new and learning constantly from whatever people enter into the system. So some of those ethical concerns, it starts with taking all of what it knows from the internet, say from prior to 2021 with ChatGPT 3.0 and 3.5, and it takes that and it uses that to create the responses. Now, because it's taking all the things on the internet, there could be biases based in that from society, from history, and all different types of contexts that are built in. And it's our job as somebody who's using it to vet, furthermore, the data security and privacy needs that you have of your students and your staff at your school. That needs to be first and foremost. So when we think about all those concerns, we also have to think about the best practices. And some of the best practices is if you are going to enter system data from IEPs, 504s, that you should redact personal information such as birthdays, ID numbers, full names. And then you should also avoid uploading personal or sensitive documents like the whole IEP or the whole 504. You should only be uploading non-identified data that you want to use. AI is just merely offering you a suggestion from the question you asked it. It is not giving you an automatic or autonomous decision. You have to take that data and you have to make sure that it's what you want and what you want it to say. If it's not, you need to change it. You also have to remember that AI handles specific tasks delegated by teachers. So it is only going to do what you want it to do. So be careful what you put into it, but whenever you tell it to do something, it is going to do exactly what you ask it to do. Next, you want to create protocols for when the technology alerts the teachers for issues. Next, from the government also offers guidelines on AI, and this is a more general viewpoint, but can it be applied to teachers as well? We want to have a safe and effective systems are needed to protect people from harm. We want to use AI for good. We also, from the government, have protection from algorithmic bias. So this is like what we were talking about before, different biases that exist in it. We also want to know the transparency of when AI is being used and why. Also, from a teacher perspective, you want to tell students, you want to tell parents, and you also want to be transparent in your job. When are you using AI? Why are you using AI? And then you also want to have access to human alternatives. So it's all fine and dandy to have progress monitoring via a GPT or another AI version, but you also want to have records for yourself just in case something goes wrong, and that human alternative could be you doing a personal write-up of the AI progress monitoring. AI is still developing, and we need to give it a chance to develop while also harnessing the potential that it has now.
So in this demo, we're going to look at how to use generative AI to change the reading level of a chapter or a passage so that it can meet the needs of the diverse learners that we have in the classroom. We're going to do ChatGPT, Gemini, and Copilot, and we're going to use the book Charlotte's Web, which is commonly read around third grade for the third to fourth grade reading level. So if we look at Charlotte's Web, I have a student who maybe decodes at the second grade level. So rewrite chapter 4 of Charlotte's Web at the second grade level. Be sure to include quotations from relevant characters. Do I want it in chapters? Do I want it in paragraph and bullet points? First, provide me with the summary, the relexiled chapter as in paragraphs. Then next, give me the highlights in bullet points. Remember to write at the second grade level. Now, you don't have to be that specific. You could just ask it to rewrite the chapter at the grade level that you want, but it's going to look different. So here's the specifics. You can see it's giving it to me as a story rather than just a paragraph. It's giving it to me in quotes, right? This is what happens in chapter 4. It's rewritten. Here's the bullet points. So we're going to take this prompt and move it over to Gemini. Let's see what Gemini does. So one downfall of using this technology to change reading levels is if you don't know the chapter, it's going to be hard to ensure that it's picking out the correct information. So here, chapter 4, it's calling rain, rain, go away. And here it's calling it loneliness. It's saying that Wilbur is lonely, talking to the lamb, looking for someone to play with. Mrs. Fern and meets a new friend, versus here it says he wants to explore the farm. Charlotte tells Wilbur rain is good for things to grow. So I'm a little concerned at this point because the chapters aren't the same. So that's when you want to put on your teacher hat and you want to consult other sources. So let's check out what Copilot says first. Same prompts. Now it's saying it's called loneliness. So 2 of our 3 AI are calling it loneliness. I'm going to assume that's the name of it, but what you could do is go to SparkNotes, and here's chapter 4. It's called loneliness. So Gemini, obviously, in this situation, is not giving us the information we need. Yes, using AI to rewrite text at an appropriate level is helpful and saves a lot of teacher time. However, it's still important to make sure that the information you're providing your students is correct. So always check against the actual book if you have it. I don't have Charlotte's Web handy. Talking to someone that's maybe read the book, checking in with I know for me, when I was teaching in a resource style classroom, I had students reading different books in all their gen ed classes. And I might not have read them all, but their gen ed teachers had read them, or my para had read them, and, running by them saying, hey, this is what I have. Is this correct? Then you're just asking them to check rather than asking them to rewrite the whole thing for you. So it's saving time on both ends, and it's leveraging the AI to not just summarize because you haven't read it, but rather make it more accessible to all of your learners. In this demo, we're going to look at how we can use AI to generate lists of words. So for example, you have a student in your class on your caseload who has a goal for decoding multi-syllable words where the first syllable is the first syllable is open and the second syllable is closed. And you need to generate word lists for each and every trial. So we're looking at 4 trials, multiple times a year. That's a lot of word lists. So we're going to look at how AI can help us generate those lists. We're going to do this in Copilot, Gemini, and ChatGPT. We should get different responses. Each one's going to respond a little different. So when we're prompting the AI, just a reminder, we want to set the scene. So you are an expert reading teacher. Generate a list, be specific, generate 4 lists of 10 words each that include words that are 2 syllables, where the first syllable is open and the second syllable is closed. See what happens. So it's generating my word lists for me. Great. Can you break up those words into syllables? See if it will. Okay, so this is going to be something that I would then give my student, right? I'm going to give my student the word to read. Maybe I'd write it on a whiteboard, and then I'm going to take data on it. Now, can you create a data sheet? I can track my students' progress on these words where each list is read on a different date. Notice how punctuation doesn't matter, spelling is flexible, capitalization, etc. So here's my data tracker, and I actually kind of like it. You get yes, no if the word is read correctly. I like the directions. I could then modify it. I could say, can you add a row for each list for me to provide feedback? That's pretty nifty. So while it's doing that, I'm going to come back up to the very top of our prompt, and I'm going to take this prompt. Now let's see what Gemini does with it. I was using this for a different little project. All right, so this one had a harder time. These are not double syllables. These are only 1 syllable. So what we can do we clearly said 2 syllables, right? Yep. This is not what I wanted. Can you provide let's do, each word needs 2 syllables. I'll fix it. There. So this one, getting better, right? But hide is only 1 syllable. And this one's working. This one's working. So it's not perfect. We have to be mindful and always look over our list or whatever we get from the AI because it's not perfect. But we're gonna run with it. I think the only one that's not right on this quick glance is hide. So hide and feign are only 1 syllable words. Can you replace them with 2 syllable words? Let's see. All right. So we can keep providing it feedback, but let's see what it does with the rest of our. It already provided the syllabication for us, so we don't need to ask it. But let's see if it can make that data sheet. I'm just copying and pasting from our ChatGPT. So it did it here differently, right? So we have the correct words if they needed help and if they missed it, and when they read it. So different way of doing a data sheet. Personally, I like the compact version better, but you know, we all have our different preferences. Now let's try the Copilot. So here's this. Go to Copilot, type it in. So it's coming up with words. I'm curious how many of them are repeats from the other lists, but it came up with the words. It didn't break up the syllables. So let's have it do that. See how it does that. Perfect. And then the last piece we wanted to do is that data sheet. Let's see how it does that. So it's making updates and not filling in the lists. So can you include the words you generated above into my data sheet? I don't like that either. So far, ChatGPT made the best data sheet, in my opinion. Gemini's was okay. Each word should be in its own cell. So you can keep providing feedback and letting it know, like, hey, what you're doing isn't what I want. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. List 1 should be on one day. List 2 on another. List 3 on another. And list 4 on another. Provide space for me to annotate on the students' reading and if they got the word right or wrong. better. So as you can see, each AI is going to generate the same prompt in different ways, and you'll find some that you like better for certain tasks. Personally, I really like how this one came out. This one. Here's how Gemini did it, and then here's how Copilot did it. And you can see how using the AI to generate those word lists for you for those very specific decoding patterns can save a lot of teacher time and provide more time for the actual intervention.
Now let's think of one tool, an AI tool, and there's countless others out there, right? And many of us are doing that right now in respect to what we're offering for various types of accommodations. We're using ChatGPT, etc. But let me reinforce one called Diffit. And Diffit, let me introduce it to you here. So you see Diffit. Diffit, and I've already started with it, will allow you to do a variety of different things. Now, in this instance, and I'll back up for just in just a moment, but what I wanted to do was I wanted to take this video, and I could do a Word document, I could do a website, I could do a PDF. I wanted to take a video, and I want to take this video on 3 branches of government. And I took that video and I copied and pasted it in to Diffit, and Diffit then generated a variety of resources. And to me, these are my ping pong balls, these are my tennis balls, this may be parts of my soccer ball. And what it automatically did, first of all, is it gave me a variety of visuals. Now, some of those visuals came from the actual video, but other videos came from a variety of different places to break down the basic elements of what was being introduced in this, how long is it? This 5-minute and 23-second segment about the 3 branches of government. I didn't create this 3 branches of government. I watched it, I liked it, and said, gosh, could we get some visuals to represent what it was sharing? And here are some visuals that it pulled from, okay? In addition, what it said is it took the video and it brought it into a summary, into a reading passage. And into the reading passage, it grabbed this, and by the way, I asked for it to do it at the 5th grade reading level. So I was able to select that. And I'm going to back up and show you how I can get that set up in just a moment, but let's focus on what it created instead. Now, by the way, if you haven't noticed, I can copy this text and then take it and manipulate it into, I could share it as a Google Doc, I could share it into a host of other places or resources. I could edit it. Maybe there's some language I still don't like. Maybe there's things like Kaylee that isn't necessary. Maybe there's some general information that I like. I'm going to delete and I'm going to keep the rest. All right, so I edit it. I can change words. And here's the summary. And by the way, the summary I can copy and edit as well. So here are my 3 primary points that the artificial intelligence says was critical in the video. And then from there, it took key vocabulary words. And again, I can add vocabulary words, I can edit, I can copy, I can change, I can take where I need to. There's my multiple choice questions. Again, questions that came from, okay, I can show the answers to be able to move along. I have short answer questions. I have open-ended prompts to be able to potentially facilitate some discussion or interaction. And the host of things goes on. Now, with that, I could also, though, let's go ahead and take reading vocabulary. And so here, I could now generate, let's go ahead and customize this. I could open this up, and now it's giving me a structure. So, for example, key vocabulary. Here's my legislation. Here's my noun. Here's what it means. The use in a sentence, image to represent. I could change all this. I could edit this. I could change the vocabulary activity. I could change what is here, but also I could alter and edit these elements here. But what it's done is it's created a cheat sheet, a vocabulary list, a review guide, whatever you want to call it, to allow for the individual now to be able to practice, to be able to get the big ideas, to get the essential elements. And oh, by the way, I could do this across, and let me go ahead and select this. I could do this across summarizing. I could do this across vocabulary, and I could use different strategies with the vocabulary. By the way, I selected, I think, a choice board a moment ago, and these go on. I could do this across a reading strategy for some comprehension aspects. I could do this across a writing, text analysis, collaboration, critical thinking. You're getting the hang of it, right? And so with that, so let's say critical thinking, for example. Again, with the critical thinking, I'm going to go ahead and customize the critical thinking. And, oh, there we go, my cause and effect. and reading to take notes, etc. So all these are available to me, and then from that I can edit, I can export it, I can play with it how I want. So this is all starting with, and let's go ahead and go back. Let's just start new. There we go. This all starts with the fact that I selected, in this instance, I selected a video, or I could do an article, any text, but I started with literally the video. So let's go ahead and show that again. So I copied it. I'll copy that, and I'll go ahead and paste it here. So we'll just paste it here, and there we go. Now, before I press return, I can go and say, you know what, I want it to be at the fifth grade reading level. And I'm not sure, that last one very well may have not been selected at the 5th grade reading level. So I could do it the 2nd grade, 4th grade. I could do it all the way up to the 11th grade plus. But let's do it the 5th grade reading level. I could select from different languages. I'm going to keep with my English. And then it will generate the resources. And as I mentioned a moment ago, you saw that. But let's take a look at it one last time as it then generates it. And in this instance, the visuals will pop in. You'll see similar visuals to what we just saw a moment ago. You'll see a little less text though. So I guess the first time I did not select the 5th grade reading level. Now I have, so it's less text, more comprehensive. Again, I can edit and change it, and the whole host of things that I mentioned a moment ago stay the same, except of course it's at the 5th grade reading level. So DFID is just one of several artificial intelligence tools out there that we as educators can use. Now, I offered it as an inclusionary tool because instead of having to work with all those ping pong balls and tennis balls and big soccer balls when it comes to taking a presentation and changing it into note format, changing it into key ideas, summarizing it, allowing it to be a study guide, that's a lot of work on my part. And instead, the artificial intelligence will do it. Now, again, I've watched the video. Maybe I created the video, and the artificial intelligence needs some modification, needs some editing. Again, that's what DIF is going to allow me to do. So if I don't like the word choice, so if I want to emphasize a few other things, it's taken and done the heavy lift, and now, of course, I can modify it from there. One of multiple tools, countless tools in a way, that will save me time for things like accommodations to further support individuals with disabilities. And by the way, I'll leave us with this. I don't know how many educators I work with will say, I don't know how to take my big ideas and bring it into a way to help my learners that really struggle, or I don't have the time. Well, the beauty with the artificial intelligence is it allows us, without any additional support on our part, any expertise on our part, to recreate and provide these and make them available at the level that we feel most comfortable for, as a general education teacher, as a special education teacher, as a parent, as someone giving assistance to an individual struggling learner, those with disabilities, etc. Hopefully this is a short little tidbit, gave you a brief idea of the artificial intelligence, what it can do, and have a great rest of the day.